Just me.
Yeah,
Just me.
So if we switch gears, like the parents you would think it should be easier. Like I don't think that you should hold any parents. I mean, there's exceptions obviously, but there's no parent necessarily that I would hold their opinion in such high regard for anything, unless they're an exception of they maybe were a former player, former coach,
Yeah,
former
but even
something. But
even
even
that,
then,
like I would, yes, definitely. But then it's there's so many variables to it.
exactly.
Like,
So I'm bringing that now to the coaches. So because as coaches is more tricky now because you would assume that your coach knows more than your parent friends know because they're the coach. And a lot of coaches now that are in the at least the AAA loops, they played to some degree, or they're getting paid a little bit, or on paper they should have more knowledge, or they should have more of an honest opinion about things, or they should be able to point you in the right direction. And a lot of parents would assume that. And I remember this even when I played, like the names of some of these coaches flying around, like these coaches know something. Only for me, once I got to a higher level, looking back, I'm like, these guys didn't know anything. These guys literally didn't know anything. And everybody was like gung ho about this person. So, same kind of question now to coaches. How do you value or decide who to listen to versus not from the coaching perspective? When you have different kinds or different levels of coaches with different experiences that may have played, may not have played, may know this guy, may also be a scout, may be this or that. But how do you judge as a parent or somebody who doesn't know those types of situations with a coach, the good version of the coach to listen to and the bad version of the coach to listen to, kind of thing? This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the PowerTech online membership program. If you've been listening to Andy and I wondering, hey, how are they able to get all this podcast content out there? Well, that's because of our members. For just $9.99 a month, you can get access to our online video library, including hundreds of videos of Coach Andy teaching, and have the option for consultation calls with Andy or myself to go over anything you need. We can cover training, nutrition, coaching, parenting, agents, the junior college hockey path, whatever's of interest to you. You'll also be able to participate in our popular Ask Me Anything episodes, have access to special discount codes, and be given priority for any PowerTech in-person camps or events. If you like what we're doing here and you want to support us, this is the best way to do it. Visit powertechhockey.ca/memberships or find the link in the description of this video to learn more.
yeah. So to answer your question, like from a parent's, like I think the important thing to do is you have to when it comes to the coaches is you have to have they're your coach, they're your kid's coach, and you got them no matter. It's for the year, so you cannot like the person, you cannot like the way he coaches, you cannot like the way he looks, all those different things, but you do have to respect that he is the coach. So that's number one. And if he wants to do roll all the lines, if he wants to do this, that, the other thing, it's like it is what it is, and you have to kind of deal with it. And then you have to decipher, say, like the hockey piece is he's in charge of the team, and that it is what it is. If you don't like that, then you should try to coach yourself. Where the line for me will get drawn in the sand of what advice we take or what we listen to is when it gets outside of the game. No, I've got to qualify that because I just contradicted myself a little bit. Would be if he says, "Oh, you need to get to the gym," and the guy's never been to a gym before, like you're just using those words because you heard that before, right? So it's like there's a certain point where you have to you got to buy into the system because that's just good team stuff, and you got to play the way they would like you to play, but the advice outside of that is maybe something that I would question or have my own conversations with my kid. So like now there's things where coaches a lot of the times will, and this I'm talking even good coaches, they'll do things, everything's for the good of the team. Okay, let's say you got a really good coach and everything's on the good of the team, and they might even tell you that, let's say I don't want you shooting at all. It's like, well, like sometimes you have to shoot or finish a hit or whatever. But I mean, as far as the X's and O's goes, you got to follow the system. Outside of that, it's like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to take your advice on certain things. Does that make sense?
So I guess my question from that is, or I guess a statement first would be, does the coach now, or did they at some point kind of walk the walk? because I think a lot of coaches, to your exact point, they'll say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. They've never done it. They haven't been there. They don't know what it's like. Why are you saying that to me when you haven't done it? It's just something you heard, kind of to your point. But then the second thing for me is, as the parents now, it's like, how do you evaluate whether or not the coach is going to be good? Because I remember it can look good on paper to a degree, but I also remember parents dying to have a certain person as a coach that was no good.
How do they know though?
But this is my question. Yeah. It's like, how do you judge? Like, what is the process to evaluate when you don't have the base? Like, who do you? And maybe it's an impossible question, I guess.
Well,
but like,
I think like if you're looking for like as a parent, I think your number one thing as in youth hockey, your number one thing would be that you have someone that has a little bit of a clue about hockey, like as far as just the hockey goes. Like I would never expect a youth hockey coach to be a great coach, because if they were a really like a great coach, they'd probably be making some money somewhere if they were great
somewhere else. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I'm not carving there's many very good youth hockey coaches. Hard to find sometimes, but like to be really good. And what is a good coach as well? It's teaching the game, having a good dressing room, having, like optimal would be good relationships with the kids, parents, with boundaries, all that kind of stuff. Teaching the kids, how to behave on the ice, even like little things like don't act like jackasses, because all that. But in general, I honestly wouldn't expect my youth hockey coach to be a great coach. That'd be number one.
So
I think if you're
so just in general, you shouldn't necessarily listen to everything they have to say, or you should take things with an appropriate grain of salt, because you can't expect them to be the Jesus Christ of coaches anyways, kind of thing.
Okay, so let's just put it this way. If I've been a skills coach for a couple OHL teams, right? And that's my strength. When I sit there with if I sit there with DJ Smith and he goes over a video, like when I did that with the Spitfires, and they would go over video and break the game down, X's and O's here, and here. It's like, I'm not clueless, but I'm not that good. Right? So is he a good coach and I'm a bad coach, or am I right? Or do you say, well, he's just a better coach than you? Like, well, in that area, for sure. So like, it depends on what you value a good coach. So anybody that's coaching youth hockey, if you can compare yourself to, like, he's a professional coach, X's and O's, break every little thing down, like so many smart things. I use him as one example because he's a friend of mine. That's a really good coach. That'll blow your mind. But if DJ sits with Mike Babcock, which he did, or when he sits there with Barry Trotz and they go over things, he sits there and goes, Jesus, I thought I knew something. I don't know anything. There's different levels of good. So when you get to youth hockey, like, your expectations have to be at a certain level. To me, it's like, can you run a practice? Can you run a practice with purpose? Can you treat kids somewhat fairly? Meaning, can you get them on the ice and develop them? Can you run some sort of system that resembles a hockey game? Are you giving them decent information? And honestly, some of them can't, and some of them can, and some of it's just good enough. But I think the expectations of parents a lot of times is way too much.
So in general, would you say, because I guess this is kind of the conclusion I'm coming to, is you can only make the best decision you can with the information that you have. So if, like, given that you feel you can trust the coach's opinion and trust what they have to say, that would be how you gauge whose thing you're going to value more than others, or whose opinion you're going to value more than others. Was that like a fair way of gauging it as a parent? I'm just trying to give them like a practical thing to take home. So
just say it again.
So if you as a parent, you're like, okay, I like this person, that's my coach, I feel like they reasonably know what they're doing and are appropriate for the level. I feel like they have common sense and can speak logically to me about things, and they're not that super. So I just trust this person. I feel like I have some trust with this person, and I can believe what they have to say.
I could take some of their stuff.
I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have a frame of reference.
I think you'd be willing to take their opinion.
This is like the best. This is your best bet in terms of whose opinion that you would value, kind of thing. Is that fair
That's
to
fair.
say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can take some of their opinions and say, okay, I can take some.
Yeah. Cool.